So welcome to another segment of my mathematics videos as we continue to look at trigonometry. But this time I want to give you concept on the sine rule in paper 2 mathematics ECZ examination. Now the question is, when can the sine rule be applied, or in what situation can the sine rule be applied? Well, the sine rule can be applied when it can be applied given two sides. So when you have been given two sides plus an included angle. Yeah, but of course this included angle should be opposite one of the side. For example, what I mean is that let's imagine that we have a triangle. They have given you two sides. I can say maybe they have given you 5 meters. They have given you maybe this one 6 meters. They may give you this angle to say, okay, that is maybe 60 degrees. They give you that is 60 degrees. Then it simply means if this is A, B, and that is C, look at this one. For this angle, they have given you this side. But for this side, you do not know what the angle is. That is angle C. So they can ask you to find angle C. So this is what I mean by given two sides and an included angle. So this angle is opposite to this one. But you can notice this side, you don't know what that angle is. So they can ask you to find this angle. It is possible. Another situation where you can use that is, given, two angles, plus an included side. Of course, the two given angles should be opposite one of the side. Now, in this case, when they have given you two sides and an included angle, you're finding an angle. If they give you two angles plus an included side, it simply means they want you to find, the side. So look at the situation that I can have there. Maybe let's say you have this type of a triangle. I say maybe this is KN and this is R that we have. Imagine they gave you this one as being 52 degrees. They also gave us this one to say maybe that is 60 degrees. So what they are going to do for this, two angles, they may give you one of the side. Let me say that is 80 meters. I can simply ask you then, remember this angle has the opposite side, but this angle does not have the side there you have not been given. So what you can be told is simply to find that side. That is what we mean. You can apply the sine rule. So the sine rule basically is according in general. I can simply say that in general, the sine rule says that A over sine of angle A, if I'm looking at that one, so it's, remember what we said, where this angle A is pointing, that would be your small letter A. That would be your small letter A. Where this angle B will be pointing, that will be your small letter B. And where this angle C will be pointing, that will be small letter C. So in terms of that, you can say the small side divided by sine of that angle A should be equal to the small side B divided by sine of angle B, which can be equal to the small side C over sine of this angle C that you have. Now remember, you cannot use all the three together. You can only use two of them. For example, depending on the sides that they have given you, you can compare A and B, meaning it would be A over sine A should be equal to B over sine B. Or you can compare B and C. In this case, it would be B over sine B will be equal to C over sine C. Or you can compare A and C. A over sine A is equal to C over sine C. So it will depend with the situation you have been given. So only two can be used to solve a problem. Now I want you to understand that this expression, of course, they'll give you in your mathematics paper too, but if you want, you can write it like that, or you can flip them. There's no problem you writing sine A over A is equal to sine B over B, or you write sine C over C. This is just the same. There's no problem. Now let me show you how you can go about, how you can apply this formula we are calling as being the sine rule when it comes to your paper 2. So let's try to see and apply, you know, this concept and see how we can go about it. All right, so it's very simple, it's not complicated. What is important is for you to practice. Okay, let's say I've got a triangle there. Let's say that I do have a triangle there, and I tell you that is KN and that is R. Then I give you this to be 52 degrees. Then I tell you that this angle there is 60 degrees. I give you that is, you know, 80 meters. Then what do I tell you? I tell you to say, you know, calculate, you know, A. I can simply tell you to calculate KR. Then I can simply tell you again to calculate, you know, I simply tell you to calculate B, you know, the area of the triangle KNR. So that is what I want you to calculate there. Well, let's see how you can do that. So remember, in this situation, they have given you 2 angles plus an included side. So for this angle, you do know the side. Yeah, so if this is R, that would be small r. Remember, if that is N, where it is pointing, this would be small letter N. If this is K, this would be small letter K. So for the angle R, they have given you the smaller side R. For this angle, we do not know the side, and that's the one they want us to find, KN. So I'll represent it by, you know, N. So it is going to be my formula you apply. Remember, using the letters there, so it will be N over sine of N should be equal to, I'm using also R, so it is going to be small r over sine of the angle R there. So how is that going to be? What is my N there representing? Remember, that is the one representing KR over sine. What is your angle N? My angle N there is simply 60 degrees, is equal to, what is my small r? It is representing, you know, 80 over sine of the angle R, which is 52 degrees. Then from there, you can cross multiply. So it simply means that it will be KR is equal to, if you notice, sorry, KR multiplied by, you know, sine 52 degrees should be equal to, that would be 80 multiplied by sine 60 degrees. How do I find KR? I'll divide sine 52 degrees. What I do this side, I'll also do it the other. I'll also do it the other side. So basically, this and that will cancel. You remain with KR. So please be careful once you do that. You know, in your calculator, you can multiply what is on top. That is 80 multiplied by sine 60. So the answer that you get, after you get the answer there, that is when you can divide it by sine 52. So sine 52 there. All right. So that is going to give me, in this case, the 3 significant figures. That is going to be 87.9, and that is going to be in meters. So that's basically the way you can go about it. So it's not complicated, but it is very simple that you can work out. All right, I hope we are together. You are following me and getting the concept. The B part there says we find the area. Remember, at this point now, we know what our KR is. It is simply equal to 87.9 meters. Now for the area rule, if you know, you need to know 2 sides. So I know this side and I know this side. So meaning the angle, which angle are you going to use? It's the angle between the 2 lines that you know. So it is angle K that we are going to use. Now, do we know what angle K is? The answer is no. But one thing that you need to remember is that angles in a triangle add up to what? They add up to 180. So meaning when you add this angle K, let me just say, you know, K plus you add, if you add your angle K, let me just say, you know, angle K plus 52 plus 60 should be equal to 180. That's the way you can do it. Please don't waste time when you add this. It is the same as just saying if you want 180 minus, you know, the 2 angles that you have. So add the 2 angles if you want. That's what we mean. So that is going to be 180 degrees. So if you add 52 plus 60, that is going to give you a 112. So that is minus 112 degrees. So that would be 180 minus 112. What is that going to give us? So it is going to give us 68 degrees. So you have seen, now you know what that angle is. It is actually equal to 68 degrees. So you know this side and you know that side. So what is the formula for the area rule? If you remember, it will be half. So it is this side times that side. So that is going to be NR, N times R, then sine. For the area rule, we use sine of that angle. Okay, that is what we mean. So the area is going to be equal to half. What is my N? My N is representing 87. So that is 87.9 multiplied by my R, which is 80 multiplied by sine, 68. Sorry, the space is just too little for me there. Right, so 2 there, 1, 2 there, that will give me 40. So that will be 87.9 times 40 times sine 68. All right, I hope you're able to see that. So 87.9 multiplied by 40 multiplied by sine 68, the angle that we got there. So it is going to give me to three significant figures. I have this value, 3,259.978, and it goes on. But since I want in the exam, they just want you to leave your answer to three significant figures. So just count 1, 2, 3. They look at the number in front, it's more than 9, so you add. So it will be 326. Now you cannot say 3,259 will become 326. So this before the decimal point, the digit that you have rounded off, you replace it with a 0 so that you maintain a place value. So the area is going to be 3,260, and that is going to be in square meters. So that is basically how you can go about it. Remember, another situation that you can have is where they have given you two sides and an included angle. So I'm going to show you another basic question. This came in an exam, in an ECZ exam in 2018. So this was the question that came in 2018, paper 2, internal. Now let me show you another question and how you can go about it. So I'd have written another one, 2022. So the concept are just the same. So you don't even need to worry. The concept are just the same, and hence you just need to know the basic idea. So it says in the diagram, they have given you xy is 6 centimeters. Then they have given you two angles. So you can see this situation, they have again given you two angles. And this is 80, that is 60. Then the question says calculate the length of YZ. So calculate the length of YZ. So if you look at YZ, so remember where X is pointing, that would be your small letter X. Where Y is pointing, the angle Y, that is small letter Y. Where Z is pointing, that would be your small letter Z. That is what we mean. Now it says calculate the length YZ. So if you look at YZ, the YZ that they want me to calculate, for this one, I know the angle they have actually given me, which is 60 degrees. For this side, the angle is 60 degrees. Now, if you notice, this 80, you do not know the side. The one that you know is Z. So mean you need this because you want to calculate your YZ. So because I know this side, I know I need to know what that angle is. In other words, we need to know angle Z. Remember, angles, as the concept will always come, angles in a triangle add up to 180. So to find angle Z, you can just say it's 180 degrees minus the two angles. That simply means you can add 80 degrees plus 60 degrees. So that is going to be 180 degrees minus. So when you add that 80 plus your 60, that is going to give you 140 degrees. So therefore 180 minus 140, that will give you 40 degrees. So that angle now we know it is 40 degrees. So now notice I'll use a red marker, so I know that is 40 degrees. So if you know this angle now, you have this side. That's what we mean. So this angle, you are not even using it. Why? Because you don't have the side. The angle that you needed to use is Z, because they gave you the side and you can find that angle there. So therefore my formula now to calculate the length of YZ, it is going to be, remember YZ is represented by X, therefore it will be X over sine X is equal to, I'll use Z over sine of z. So what is my x there? It is representing yz, which they want us to find, over sine x. Your x is 60 degrees, is equal to, in this context, my small z is representing 6 over, that is going to be sine. What is angle z? The one that we found, which is 40 degrees. Then you can cross multiply. So it will be yz multiplied by sine 40 is equal to 6 times sine 60 degrees. So it will be yz dot, how do I find my yz there? You can divide sine 40 degrees. What you do this side, you also do it on the other side. Please pay attention to, it is not just 40 sine 40. That is what people make those mistakes in the exam. So yz is equal to, remember that will cancel. What you have there is 6 times sine 60. Let me just write that, over sine 40 degrees. So it simply means that yz is equal to, like I told you, you can now use your calculator. So sine 6 multiplied by sine 60, the answer that you get on top, after you press the equal, 6 times that, you press the equal sign, then you divide by sine, not 40 but sine 40 degrees. That's what you need to remember. So I'm having, in this case, the value that I have on the calculator, if you're following, it's 8.083778, and the numbers go on. Now to 3 significant figures, 1, 2, 3. So you look at the number in front. If it is 5 and above, you can add a 1, but it is less than 5, so you just leave it like that. So meaning it will be 8.08. And this is going to be in centimeters. That's what we mean there. So that is your yz. You can see you even get your 4 marks in the exam. So please pay attention, which side you are going to use. That's the idea with the sine rule as well. Okay, so let's move on to let's move on to Roman 2 A2 there. So my A2 there says my A2 there says the area of triangle. So remember, you have this side, you now have this side, you know that it's 8.08 centimeters. So you have this side and that side. Which angle are you going to use? Yes, angle Y is what you're going to use. So the area of the triangle will be given by half the base times the height. So the area will be equal to half. What in this case, the area we are not talking about. The area of the triangle, according to the area rule, it is simply going to be half. So you use these two sides, so that would be x times z, then sine of the angle where these two lines are intersecting, which is angle y. All right, so it will be half times, what is my x? It is 8.08 multiplied by z, which is equal to 6, multiplied by sine, what is y? That is 80 degrees. So the area will be equal to, if you want 2 there, 1, 2 there is a 3. So I'll remain with 8.08 times 3 multiplied by sine 80 degrees. Then you can now use your calculator and punch them in. So 8.08 multiplied by 3 multiplied by sine 80. So sine 80 there. So what is that giving me? Okay, so that's the value it's giving me. It's giving me 23.87173 and so on. Well, I write like this because I want to show you how to round off to 3 significant figures. If you have not specified, the question say leave your answer to 3 significant figures. So you count 1, 2, 3. So look at the number in front. You can see it is greater than 5, so you add the 1, so it will be 23.9. So that would be 23.9, and since this is the area, it is going to be square centimeter. So this is the final answer, and you get your 2 marks there. All right, I hope you are following, and it's actually interesting. If you like what I do, please, you can like and also subscribe to my videos. All right, let's move on to A3 and see how you can go about that. So we know the area up to this point. I just want to be writing certain things. So the area is simply 23 point, so that is 23.9. I think that is what we got, 23.9. right? So now with that in mind, it says calculate, in this case, the shortest distance. From where? They are telling you from X to YZ. So from this point to YZ. Remember what I told you, if they tell you, since the question, the diagram is like this, let's try to redraw the diagram so that we can have a clean diagram. So they have given you like this. This is your Y, this is your X, and that is your Z. So they want you to draw the shortest distance starting from this point X to meet you know, YZ. So remember what I told you, where it is going to meet this side, that will become your base, and the distance from here to there, this is your height, and that H is representing the shortest, that is the shortest distance. All right, so you don't need to waste time because we already know the area for this triangle. We can apply the formula area. This is a right angle triangle. A right angle triangle is simply given by half base times height. So you just make H the subject of the formula. When you make H the subject of the formula, it will always be 2 times the area of the whole triangle divided by the base. So the base is that one. So the shortest distance will be 2 times the area. We got 23.9 over the base. In this case is, you know, what was the distance from here to there? That is what we got, 8.08. So you just need to, you know, punch that on the calculator. So when I punch that on the calculator, it will be 2 times 23.9. The answer I get, it's 47.8 divided by 8.08. So what will that give me? Divided by 8.08. Right, so to 3 significant figures, again, if you look at the value that I'm having is 5.91584 and so on. To 3, you just count 1, 2, 3. So look at the number in front, it is 5, so I'll add a 1 there. So it is going to be 5.92, and that will be in centimeters. So this is the shortest distance that they wanted you to calculate. So there's nothing complicated. What is important is for you to practice and go through the video. You can pause it and actually recheck it out. Or there are some additional questions that came there, but you can watch out for my other videos and see how we solve trigonometric equations and how to solve simplify. I think I did make some other videos. So the B part, there says solve the equation. So they want you to solve the equation tan theta is equal to 2.75. Now the key idea is that when you look at this one, the value that we have there is actually a positive. So you go to your quadrants. If you haven't learned about quadrant, please watch my video. From 0 to 90 degrees, from 90 to 180 degrees, 180 to 270, then back to 360. So this is the first quadrant, this is the second quadrant, this is the third quadrant, and this is the fourth quadrant. So remember, all students take chemistry. That tells you all the trigonometric ratios. Remember your so, ka, to, wa. In this case, sine, cosine, and tangent, they are all positive in the first quadrant. In the second quadrant, only sine is positive, meaning the rest, such as cos and tan, will be negative in here. Here, in the third quadrant, only tan is positive. The rest, sine and cos, will be negative. In the fourth quadrant, only cos is positive. The rest, you know, sine and tangent will be negative in there. So now here, because this value that you have is a positive value, the questions the question that you should have in mind is that they want you to find your angles where tan is positive. So in which quadrants is tan positive? Of course, it is in the first quadrant and also in the third quadrant. Remember, now for you to get angles, once you know the angle in the first quadrant, let's say it is angle theta, you can know the angle in the second quadrant. We just say it's 180 degrees. You subtract the angle in the first quadrant. If you want to get the angle in the third quadrant, we say it is the angle in the first quadrant plus 180 degrees. To get the angle in the fourth quadrant, it is 360 minus the angle that you got in the first quadrant. So that's what I mean. Please watch my other videos so that you can appreciate, that. Now, another thing that you need to remember is the condition they have given you. This one, they have not given us any restriction. It says from 0 up to 360. So we can pick up, angles can be from 0 up to 360. Therefore, they'll come from there. So we can simply say, right away, you can simply say, since tan theta is equal to 2.75, right away you can say, how do I get the angle theta? You simply now say the inverse of 2.75. So the angle that you get, the first angle that you get is always the angle in the first quadrant. That is what we mean. So I'm going to say shift tan, then you type 2.75 there. What is the angle? So the angles, remember, left to one decimal place was 70.0 degrees. So this angle that we have gotten is the angle in the first quadrant, and it is part of our solution. So how do I get the angle in the third quadrant? So in the third quadrant, the angle is going to be, remember what we said, it's the angle in the first quadrant. So we are going to say 70.0 plus what? Plus 180 degrees there. So what will be the angle? So if you add 70 plus 180 plus 180, it is simply giving me a 250 degrees. Therefore, angle theta is simply 70 degrees and 70.0 degrees, and it is actually 250 degrees. So these are the angles that they wanted you to get, and that is your 2 marks. Please, you can go back on my trigonometric equation video so that you can actually appreciate that. Let's conclude by looking at the D part of this section. So the D part there, says simplify. Remember, we have done this again. In case you want more, just go and look at simplification. So 1 plus 2x. What do you need to do? Remember, the one on top can simply be factorized. You have 1 minus 4x squared. You can use different of 2 squares. 4 is a square number. 1 is a square number that can be written 1 squared. 4 can be written as 2 to the power 2, and you have x to the power 2. So there, using difference of 2 squares, if you have forgotten, if you have a squared minus b squared, we said you get a and you get your b. You can put a positive in one bracket, then do the same in the other bracket, but this time put up a negative. So here I'll get a 1, and then there I'll say plus, I'll get a 2 and 1x from there. Then I'll repeat, but this time with a negative. It simply means you have factorized this expression there. So now, once you factorize that expression, you can put it on top there, 1 plus, 2x, then that would be 1 minus 2x over, 1 plus 2x. Now you can see, is anything that can cancel? Yes, 1 plus 2x there will cancel, give me 1, and there it will give me 1. So what do I remain with? 1 times that, you are going to remain with 1 minus 2x over, you have remained with 1. When 1 goes there, definitely it is going to give you 1 minus 2x. So that is, the simplification. That's the final answer that you get. Right, thank you so much for watching my videos. If you like my videos, please, you can like them and click on that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching.